Deb here, your spiritual cheerleader and mentor. Welcome to Greater is Jesus in Me YouTube channel. And you know what to do. Subscribe now. And friends, today we have a special guest, Ernie. Hello, Ernie. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Ernie, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am a real estate agent in the Northern Virginia area. I mostly deal with veterans and active duty clients, but we do deal with many others. I am a retiring military member with 28 years of military service.
Thank you for your service.
You're very welcome. I'm married and have one child and live in Alexandria, Virginia.
Ernie, the reason why I have you here is because on the news, we see a lot about people trying to buy houses and the challenges they're having. And I think it would be good to tell people the things they should do or prep before considering buying a home. And I think this is universal because people buy homes all over the world. I'll tell you that I'm from Panama, and when I was 30 years old, I bought my first home, which was a 2-bedroom condo. And I was very, very excited. So I know homeownership is special and a lot of people want to own a home. I really want you to kind of walk people through some of the processes and things that they can start considering before looking for a home.
Okay, I'd be very happy to do that. No problem. First off, especially in the United States, we all live by our credit. And credit scores are going to be something that's very important in trying to obtain a home loan, because not many of us have the cash sitting around to pay cash for a home, especially with the average home cost in the United States being somewhere around $360,000 now. So first off, I think people need to know what their credit score is. And I think you'd be surprised by the number of people who probably don't really have an idea of what their credit is, or that they have easy things that they can fix on their credit that they just don't really know about. So people should know that you are allowed in the United States to get a free credit report every year from there's three different credit agencies, and you can get a report from each of those for free just by going to annualcreditreport.com, and you'll be able to get those. And that will set you up for knowing how confident you should be in getting a home loan for a decent interest rate, because interest rates obviously can fluctuate depending on your credit, and that makes a huge difference in your monthly payment.
Yes,
so I would advise people to make sure they know what their credit is, and if it's not great, then figure out the things that you can do to fix that credit, because you can fix your credit. I mean, I've had friends that went from 500 some credit scores and now they're 800 credit scores. And so it just takes a little bit of work and knowledge on your part, knowing what you need to do to fix that. So that's my first piece of advice, is knowing that. And then if it's too low, maybe it's not the time for you to buy a house. Maybe you need to wait a little while and try to fix that first and then buy a home. Homes aren't going anywhere. They will be always increasing in price. The average home value in Northern Virginia has gone up over the last 20 years, an average of 4% per year. Now, that includes the down years, where after 2008, when the market went down, and the up years like last year, where we went up like 17% in home values. So just be patient and know that, you can buy a home if that's what you want to do. Just start with your credit. I think that's a good place to start.
Yeah, and that's the thing that you can control.
You can. Yes, you can.
Your credit score. And you're right. A lot of people don't think of credit score.
Right. The second thing I would advise is a lot of people don't understand the costs that are associated with purchasing a home. There's not many times when you're going to get into a home without some cash coming out of your pocket. And some people just don't understand that before they get into it, and then they get all the way to the end, and then they're surprised by an amount of cash that they have to bring to the closing to be able to get that loan. So I think it's It's very important that you understand those costs. You don't necessarily have to find that out on your own. Obviously, with the internet nowadays, you could probably just Google that question and it'll give you a lot of answers. Or another step in this is going to be talking about a realtor, and your realtor should be able to help explain that along with your loan officer. If you have a good loan officer that will be able to put it all out there and help you feel very comfortable with the costs associated. Because there are several. I mean, some loans require a down payment.
Right.
If you are getting a conventional loan or an FHA loan, conventional loans require 3% down payment at the least, and FHA loans require 3.5% down payment at the very least. VA loans are the only ones that have a zero down payment option. But that doesn't mean, again, that you're going to get into the house for zero money. And then, along with that, you have taxes and insurance and other things that are going to be added onto your payment, but that's in your payment. So you can't just go to a loan calculator and put in what the home cost, divide it by 30 years and get your payment. That's not going to be what the payment is. And then you have your closing costs, and those are typically going to be about 3% of the purchase price of the home that you buy. And that's typically the biggest part of the money that you are most likely going to owe at closing, is about 3% of the home value. In this area, it may sound expensive, but just for easy numbers, a $500,000 home, that's $15,000 that you would have to have at closing. Now, there are options with certain loan officers and banks and lenders that you can roll some of that money into your loan, where it adds to your payment and you don't have to have it in cash. But almost every time you do that, it's going to increase your interest rate. So if your interest rate is 3.5, you may end up at a 4.0 interest rate because you wanted to roll some of those costs in. So just understanding and having your expectations set accordingly on what you're going to need to have when you buy a home is very important, so that you don't get surprised by that at the very end and then your deal breaks down because you were not aware.
The money part is very important, because I know we talked about the credit score, but also your income is very important.
And that's going to factor into another part that we will talk about with your loan officer and getting pre-qualified or pre-approved for a loan. Your income, your credit score, your debt to income ratio are the three biggest things that are going to determine how much money you qualify for to be able to buy a home. Now, just because you qualify for a certain amount doesn't mean you should purchase a home for that amount.
Right.
You got to still be smart with your money and know how much debt you have and know how much you can really afford and still have the lifestyle you want to have. And you listen to different people. A popular one is Dave Ramsey. I don't know if you've heard of Dave Ramsey. He's a Christian speaker. He has a big show, and he's been doing it for many, many years, where he advises people on real estate along with other things on how to manage your money. According to him, your home payment shouldn't be more than about 25% of your income.
No.
If you get up above 30% of your income, you're starting to become what we call house poor. You're paying too much for your home, and then it just eats up a lot of your income. And you should never feel comfortable that you have enough money to live how you want to live. It's just important to live within our means. It's hard to do that, especially in the United States, with the internet and everywhere else is always trying to get us to buy more things and spend more money.
Yes, tell me about it.
Easy to do, especially with Amazon and everywhere else. It's real easy to end up with a lot of fun things and no money left.
That is so right. That is so right.
So,
but I agree with what you were just saying. And in terms of knowing how much you qualify for, I think is important, because you don't want to go out there looking for homes.
Correct.
At a certain price range, and maybe it's out of your range and you don't know. That's why it is important to go and find out with a lender, how much do I qualify for it, and not waste your time going looking for maybe a $400,000 home when you only qualify for $200,000.
100% right. It will be wasting your time finding a good lender if you don't already know of a good lender, or you haven't bought a home before and you don't have a lender that you're comfortable with. a lot of times a good realtor will have several lenders that they may be able to, you know, let you talk to and pick which one you think is best for you. And there's different factors that go along with that, because most places are going to be pretty close on interest rate. You know, me personally, I like a lender or somebody that's going to communicate effectively with me, is going to make me feel comfortable, is going to lay everything out in an understandable way to me, you know, and different people have different knowledge of real estate. So, you know, they're going to be able to put it in terms that I can understand, and they're going to be reachable by email, phone, whenever I have a question. And, you know, that sometimes is hard to find. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I'm not obviously going to mention names of any lenders or anything on here, but, you know, some of the bigger places sometimes may sound good because you know that they're worldwide and they're big companies, but that doesn't mean they're always going to be the best lender for you.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
most lenders sell your loan after they give it to you. And when they do that, you're not dealing with them anymore anyway. So, you know, find a lender, I mean, that makes you feel comfortable, and, you know, that's going to make things go a lot smoother and make the stress as good as it can be. The process is always going to be stressful, but it can be less stressful if you have a good lender and then also a good realtor.
Yes, a good realtor. That's very important.
You know, the realtor industry has gotten I won't say a bad name, but, you know, there's a lot of people that think that realtors don't do a whole lot and that they're just costing money that you could be saving. And
I've
I
heard that.
And that depends on your realtor. Again, it's just like the lender. Your realtor should be there anytime you need something. They should be active in the process along with you. They should be providing value, what you consider value, and everybody has a different opinion on what that is. That's why it's important to talk to each other and communicate. Your personalities should be able to click with each other, because
That is true.
sometimes you're just not right for each other. No fault.
Like any relationship.
That's right. And it's better to find that out early and cut ties and get somebody that does give you that warm fuzzy and that you can feel like yourself around. And, you know, one thing people may not understand is that when you're a buyer, you don't pay the realtor. You basically get the realtor for free. The seller pays all commissions to realtors. Now, that doesn't mean that the buying realtor works for the seller, and that might be what some people think, is that they have a conflict of interest because they're getting paid by the selling proceeds. But we never even talk to the seller during the whole time during the process. It just happens to be at the end of the process when we close. The title company and the bank pay the realtor, the buying realtor, out of the proceeds from the sale. So that's a good thing to understand, is that
is very good to understand, because I didn't know that. And I know a lot of people don't know that or understand that.
Right. I've had several people ask me at the end, how much do I owe you? I say, and I know we had talked about it, but I'm just like, you don't owe me anything. I get paid somewhere else. So it's something I probably need to do a better job of communicating, you know, when I first talk to people, so that they feel a little bit of stress relief, because they don't owe me any money. And it sometimes frees people up a little bit when they don't think they have to pay. And, you know, as long as you still have a good realtor that's doing all the right things for you. Because just because they aren't getting paid by you doesn't mean they don't work for you.
Right.
So that is their job, is to 100% advocate for your best interest and to try to find you a home for the best possible price, you know, which may not seem like the best possible price sometimes in this current market, but you know, they negotiate and they get as good of a deal as they possibly can.
Right.
So finding the lender, as we talked about, very important. And then finding that realtor that can help you through the process and explain a lot of things, or if they can't, they usually know somebody who can, and they can put you in touch with that person.
Right. There has to be added value from the realtor.
Right. Because we can all look at houses online, obviously. And if, you know, if all I'm doing is waiting for you to call me every time, and then I show you a house, and then there's nothing else associated with me helping you as a realtor, then I'm probably not adding a lot of value, because you could have called any realtor to get them to let you into a house to look at it. And sometimes that's the hard part about being a realtor, is trying to figure out how to how to provide that best value. And again, it does depend on the individual that you're working with and
Mm-hmm.
what they perceive as value, because that is what's important, not what I
Mm-hmm.
perceive as value.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
figuring that out is part of that relationship.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah, that's key there. A relationship.
Right. And,
Mm-hmm.
I've had great relationships buying homes with people, and I've had some that did not work out. And that applies to every realtor. There's differences in experience level, obviously. Um, but to be honest, real estate's not rocket science. It is, you just have to be confident. You have to have knowledge of some basic things, and you have to know how to, do the right research, and you have to know who the right people to talk to, just like anything. If you know the right people to talk to, you can be successful. I think the most important part is finding that realtor that you click with. And how you go about doing that sometimes is the hard part, because you can go through companies that will assign you a realtor.
Yes.
And in that case, you can get lucky and get a good one. You can, always take the advice of a friend. I mean, who else has bought a house? And if they had a great experience with the realtor, it's hard to go wrong in that way, taking that person. Of course, your personalities may not click with each other, but
Mm-hmm.
at least you have a personal reference for that person that you trust. And then you can look up online, try to find a realtor that way. But there's 10,000 realtors in the Northern Virginia alone. It'd be kind of hard to make a decision on which realtor to pick.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, they're all pretty close to equal, except for maybe why they do what they do, how long they've been doing it. Some of them may be tired of being in the business and have just dealt with a lot of things, so they may come across grumpy. I mean, there's just so many things that go along with finding somebody that you feel comfortable with.
Right. Are there any more things people should do or prep before?
Well, I mean, I think one of the biggest things at the end of it, is hopefully through your conversations with your realtor and your lender, you've got your expectations set correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a lot of people will come in, especially a lot of the younger military folks we help. They don't have a lot of cash sitting around, so just to pay their closing costs is hard enough for them to be able to do. There are options, obviously. If you're a military person, you have a thrift savings plan. You can borrow against your thrift savings plan if you really want to, and pay yourself back at zero interest. That's an option for people who need cash, and we advise people of that. But the market right now is really hard to get into a house for asking price or less. And sometimes it's really hard for people to grasp. Nobody wants to pay more than something's worth.
Right.
And worth is a fuzzy word anyways, because what is something worth? Is asking price what it's worth, or is what somebody's willing to pay for it what it's worth? Right? It's kind of different. There's two different kinds of worth, I guess, because when you pay over asking price and it appraises for less than that, in your head you're like, well, I paid more than it's worth. In one way, I can definitely see that side of the coin, but it just means it's going to take you a little bit longer to get on that positive side of equity. But if you stay in a house for more than 5 years, you should easily have equity, even if you paid a little bit more than what the asking price was.
Right.
But again, a lot of our challenge in dealing with some people is we are trying to get them a house for asking price. And sometimes that means we're going to go through 20 offers before we win a house. And it's hard for somebody to stick that out and not just decide to rent after losing 10 offers. It's demoralizing. It's stressful. You don't think you're ever going to get into a house. And so it's hard to keep people motivated and understand that unfortunately, that's the norm in our market right now, is even people who are escalating above asking price, people are losing a lot of offers before they win, because you just have a lot of deep pockets in the Northern Virginia area, especially, that people pay crazy amounts for things. And so understanding that and setting your expectations and not feeling like it's a losing proposition, you just have to be able to be patient. And if you understand it from the beginning and you're not shocked by it every time it happens, I think it can help a lot with eventually ending up with a home.
One of the things that you touched on, I saw it on the news where this lady, it was her first house. I think she did like 20 different offers, and
Yep.
she never got any of the houses that she put in an offer for. And I think that's the challenges and the frustration a lot of people are having today when they're trying to buy a home. There are different types of homes. I mean, you can buy a new home and then you can buy an existing home. And then when you get this existing home, they have a price for the home, and then you put in an offer, but other people are putting in offers also. And then it keeps going up. And sometimes it goes up to a price that you can't afford.
It happens a lot. Your first thought, shouldn't obviously be paying more than you have to. It should be a good realtor is going to try to get you the house for as little as possible, but that still may mean over asking price. And if you have the ability to go out over asking price, what I like to tell people is, as long as when you put your offer in within your means, and if somebody bids one more dollar than that and they get the house, you're not going to be crushed by that, because you knew that you gave it everything you could, making your own smart financial decisions on what you could afford. And if somebody's willing to go higher than that, then they can have it. You know what I mean? And that's hard to wrap your mind around and be able to do, but that's the way we have to try to think about it, so that we're not just disheartened every time we lose an offer because somebody
Yes.
paid more.
Yes, it's hard. I didn't realize how challenging this has become, because when my husband and I came to the United States over 20 years ago, we bought a home, but it was a new home. And we never had this type of experience. But I'm watching the news and I'm hearing all this stuff going on. And I'm like, wow.
I bought my house in 2020. I mean, I've owned other houses before, and I've never had that experience either, even as late as 2020. In 2021, especially, the COVID crisis really did change the market, because a lot of people wanted to buy houses that were different than where they currently lived or where they were renting, because they were working from home so much more. Now your home becomes even more important to you because you're there so often.
Yes, that's what I was hearing too.
And so you create this feeding frenzy for houses, just not enough supply to go around. And so that's why it's been a seller's market, and it probably will continue to be a seller's market for at least another couple of years. It will eventually go back to at least even, or maybe even back to a buyer's market. And just like everything else, just like the stock market, it goes up and down. So it changes. It's just how long will it take to do that? And we always advise people too, when they want to rent, we just want them to understand that homeownership is a great thing. It is a thing that's going to add wealth to you eventually if you hold on to a house. Real estate, like I said, in the Northern Virginia area, only goes up over time. So if you stay in a house for a while, you're going to sell that house possibly, and then take a certain amount of profit with you that you can put into your next house or use for other things that you could not do with rent. And rent, you're giving all that money and you're not getting anything back. And believe it or not, the rental market right now, those prices are escalating too, because you have multiple.
It's ridiculous. I was watching the news, and it's so expensive renting an apartment, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and it comes up to be more than paying a mortgage.
It definitely can. And if let's say a condo is renting for $3,500, you may have 10 people that put an application in to live there, and then somebody says, I'm willing to pay $4,000 a month to live there. So that price went up just like the houses went up. So that game is being played on both the buying and renting side right now. So it's a crazy world when it comes to real estate at this moment. And that's nationwide here in the United States.
Yes.
Some places are a little better than others. But any big city you go to is definitely going to have the same thing going on.
Yes. I'm telling you, it's really tough. These are challenging times for buyers. On the news, they were talking about people that live in apartments are now wanting to buy homes because, as you said, because of COVID and they're teleworking, they want to separate things. They don't want to be just all day the same place where you eat, entertain, you're working. So they're looking for more space and rooms for them to be able to telework and separate stuff. So it is very challenging. When folks are considering to buy a home, I would think too, you need to know what are the things you would like. Have an idea. What are the must things and the things that you're willing to compromise? Like, I want a minimum of 3 bedrooms or 2 bathrooms, or I want a garage. That narrows down the search also.
Yes, I 100% agree with everything you just said. You said the perfect words on, what are your must-haves,
Mm-hmm.
and then what are things that you would have if it pops up, But you have to have your must-haves of what type of house, as in, single family home, new, existing, how old, if you care about how old it is, garage, like you said, or do you want a condo or a townhouse?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are buying townhouses nowadays because they are selling fast and they sell for a lot more than people bought them for. So they're good investments in this area. So those things are definitely important to narrow down, at the beginning after you've done some of the other steps to make sure, you're looking in the right direction, and that your realtor can narrow down that search so that you're not looking at things that you're not going to like.
Right.
Because that's just going to, take up a lot of time. Because, going and viewing houses when you get started, it can be very time consuming. And, it's a challenge. You can go through 10 houses and you didn't even like any of them. Photographers are so good now, they can make a house look perfect. But when you go see it, it's so important. You have to see it in person because those pictures are not always what the house really looks like.
Yeah, sometimes you're like, is this the same house I saw? The picture, it looks totally different.
It does. It is surprising sometimes, but that's why it's very important that if you can, to go see it. Now, we do have customers that are deployed or PCSing and want to move into a home right when they get here. We as realtors go do video tours and do FaceTime with people, and they'll buy a house based on that. So that's another reason that you really have to have a realtor that you trust, so that you're confident that that they can spot problems if there are any, and can tell you so that you don't buy something and then regret that choice later. So,
and to the location, you have to, I think, narrow down the area wherever you want to live, not just all over the place.
Yeah, some people have really broad areas, which, in some ways it's going to be good because it gives you more houses, but at the same time, you're doing a whole lot more driving and searching. And if you can, they end up narrowing down their search, but it takes a little bit more time. So if you can narrow it down at the beginning, it definitely helps a lot to know where you want to live, whether it's because of the schools or just the area is quieter and you're away from the city a little bit. I mean, there's lots of reasons people choose areas to live.
Yeah, and that's important too. If you have kids or whatever, you want to make sure you start looking at schools around there and certain things that you feel that you would like to have in your area close to you. So you want to do your research of the different areas.
For sure. And there's a lot of good, websites out there that can help you do that. I mean, most of the real estate search websites these days have information about schools and other things about the neighborhood. And, a lot of them will tell you if there's parks nearby or playgrounds for your kids.
And two, how much time you have. Because sometimes people need to move quickly because they are renting or whatever, and they have to get out of a place at a specific date. So,
and that can be a big challenge in this market, because even if you wait too long until you're too close to that time frame, you may not have a home by the time you have to move out of your apartment. And then you have to, some places they won't let you extend month to month. on a rental. So that's another piece with a realtor that a lot of them can, if it comes to it, they can help you find temporary living accommodations for you until you do get into a house. Hopefully, it doesn't come to that. And we have had
Mm-hmm.
people that are on a time crunch because of those very reasons. But we usually get to talk to them early enough in the process that they've got a few months, and if they're, let's say their lease ends in April of this year, we advise them to start looking in January, February at the latest, because they want to be able to close at the latest in April, and if not, close in March, so at least they feel confident that they have a place. If they close in March, their payment won't be due till May. So that's some of the other things that they can know that I didn't mention earlier, is knowing that if you close February 15th, your first payment's not due till April. April 1st, because it's always on the 1st. If you close February the 28th, your payment's due on the same day, February 1st. So you have a month or 2 months if you bought early in the month. So if you can buy earlier in the month, you have more time before you owe your payment.
Right.
So that's another good thing for people to know, so that they're not thinking they have to wait until the month that their lease ends to start looking for a house.
Right.
And they need to do it early so that they can feel confident that they have a home to go to when their rental lease is up.
And to like people that are selling their homes and is dependent on selling the house to get this other house, that is nerve-wracking.
It is, and a lot of times that's one of the hard things now too, is that we call those contingencies in an offer. If you were to put it in an offer contingent on the sale of a home that you have, those kind of offers are not being accepted very often now, because people are waiving.
Really?
They are waiving contingencies everywhere. They're waiving home inspections. They're waiving financing contingencies. They're waiving appraisals. I mean, it's crazy what people are waiving now. And if you put any more contingencies in an offer, you can almost be sure it's not going to be the winning offer, unless it's just a lot of cash. But if it's just like a normal offer, if you put a contingent on the sale of another home, it's probably never going to work.
Wow.
But
unless it's a new home, unless it's a brand new home.
Brand new homes are definitely different. Yes, you have more options.
Yeah.
But existing homes, that would be the case. Now, the good thing is it's a seller's market. So you've done the things you need to do to get your house ready to sell, which obviously not everybody does. But if you do, your house is going to sell, and probably really fast in the market right now. But there are people who, even that don't do a lot to their house, that are selling their houses fast right now. But I would never advise somebody to, try to sell their house without doing certain things before to get it ready to sell, so that it gives that good first impression and draws people in and gets several offers, for them to make some good money. Okay. There's a lot that goes into this process, obviously, and it's very stressful.
It is.
But it's worth it in the end, I believe.
Yes, in the end, once you get your dream house.
Right. And some people have pretty smooth experiences, but even a smooth transaction where you win an offer pretty quickly and everything goes on time, and 30 days later you're closing, there's still a lot of stress even in that, because there's a lot of little things that are happening, and you're never 100% positive until you sit down at that closing table and sign the papers that something's not going to throw it off track. So there's stress at different levels, depending on how quickly you're able to find a home and win an offer.
Yeah. Well, these are valuable tips for anybody that is considering getting a home, and these are things that you really want to start early with. You want to prep. That way you are not setting yourself up for disappointment. And if you follow these steps, you will be able to get your home, your dream house. They're just some things that you have to do upfront.
Yes, I would highly advise that you do them, so that it makes things go a lot smoother for you, the buyer, because that's what's important, is getting you into a place and you feeling good about it.
So any last words for our audience, Ernie?
I would just say I personally believe home ownership is a great thing. I don't think there's a downside to it. I mean, obviously, you're all going to have your upkeep in a home, just like, that you wouldn't have if you were renting because it's taken care of by somebody else. But the home is going to appreciate in value. It's yours. You own it. You can do things that you don't have to ask for permission for. Some things you may, depending if you have an HOA.
Right.
But overall, I just want to say I believe homeownership is a great thing, and that no matter your situation, if you prepare and you take some time, you can be a homeowner.
Well, Ernie, thank you so much for
You're very
being
welcome.
my special guest at Greater is Jesus in Me YouTube channel.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you asking me to be here.
And I'm going to put your contact information in the comment section. Folks, please put your comments if you have any questions, and I'll pass it on to Ernie and I will respond. Again, thank you. Thank you, Ernie.
All right. Have a good day.
So, friends, remember to go to Greatest Jesus in Me YouTube channel, and you know what to do. Subscribe now. Be blessed, and until next time.